Everything around us is in motion. The river that flows, the wind that shifts, the leaves that change color. Nothing stays the same. Even as we sit still, our bodies are constantly changing. Cells are renewing. Breath is coming and going. Thoughts are appearing and disappearing. Impermanence is not something that happens occasionally. It is the nature of existence itself. Many people feel uneasy when they think about change. They wish for things to stay the same, especially when life is comfortable. But resisting change is like trying to hold water in your hands. It slips through your fingers, no matter how tightly you grasp it. The Buddha taught that everything conditioned is impermanent. This means that everything we experience, our joys, our sorrows, our successes, and our struggles, will eventually transform into something else. Understanding impermanence does not mean we must become indifferent or detached. Instead, it encourages us to be more present. When we truly see that nothing lasts forever, we begin to appreciate what is here right now. The morning sun shining through the window, the sound of laughter, the presence of a loved one. Each moment becomes precious because we know it will not come again in exactly the same way. Impermanence is also what makes growth and renewal possible. Just as winter gives way to spring, difficulties in life do not last forever. No matter how painful a situation feels, it will change. Likewise, the things we cherish will also change, which is why it is important to appreciate them fully while they are here. Instead of fearing change, we can see it as an invitation to live with greater awareness. Some may wonder, if everything is constantly changing, is there anything we can rely on? The answer is found not in something fixed and unchanging, but in our ability to embrace the flow of life. A tree does not fight the wind, it bends with it. A river does not resist obstacles, it finds a new path. When we open ourselves to impermanence, we stop clinging to the past or worrying about the future. Instead, we learn to move with life, not against it. The nature of change is not something to be feared. It is a reminder that every moment is alive, fresh, and full of possibility. When we begin to see impermanence not as a problem, but as the essence of life itself, we can start to experience a deeper sense of peace. Why do we suffer when things change? If impermanence is the natural state of life, why does it bring us pain? The answer lies in clinging. We hold on tightly to what we love, to what is familiar, and to what makes us feel secure. But when these things inevitably change, we feel loss, fear, or frustration. Imagine holding a beautiful flower in your hand. Its colors are vibrant, its fragrance sweet. You want to keep it forever, but as the days pass, the petals begin to fade and fall. If you insist on keeping the flower unchanged, you will feel sorrow as it withers. But if you accept its nature, you can enjoy its beauty while it lasts, without suffering when it fades. Much of our suffering in life comes from this kind of resistance. We wish for good times to last forever and for difficulties to disappear instantly. We try to control what cannot be controlled, our health, our relationships, even the passage of time. But the harder we grasp, the more we struggle. The Buddha compared this to holding a rope too tightly. If we cling with force, it burns our hands. But if we hold lightly, we can still carry it without pain. Consider the moments in your life when you have suffered the most. Were they times when you were resisting change? Perhaps you lost a job, a relationship ended, or your plans did not unfold as expected. The pain may have felt unbearable, but was it the change itself that caused your suffering? Or was it the mind's refusal to accept what was happening? Letting go of clinging does not mean we stop caring. It does not mean we become passive. Instead, it means we see things as they are. without demanding that they be different. When we stop fighting impermanence, we can meet each moment with greater ease. This shift in perspective does not happen overnight. It is a practice. The next time you feel pain because something is changing, ask yourself, am I holding on too tightly? Can I allow this moment to be as it is, without resistance? When we learn to loosen our grip, suffering begins to lessen. Life flows more smoothly. We start to experience peace, not because life is perfect, but because we no longer demand it to be. If everything is always changing, where can we find stability? If nothing lasts, is there anything we can truly rely on? These questions arise when we first begin to understand impermanence. It may seem that if everything shifts, we are left with nothing solid to hold on to. But in truth, there is something we can always return to: the present moment. Right now, in this very moment, you are here. Your breath is moving in and out. Sounds are arising and fading. Sensations are appearing and dissolving. No matter where life takes you, the present moment is always with you. It is the only place where life truly happens. Often, we seek stability in external things: relationships, careers, possessions. But these are all subject to change. A relationship may evolve, a job may end, possessions may be lost. When we tie our sense of security to things that are impermanent, we set ourselves up for suffering. However, there is a deeper stability available to us: the stability of presence. Presence does not mean stopping change. It means being fully awake to what is happening right now. Imagine standing in a river. The water is constantly flowing, but the ground beneath your feet is steady. The river represents the movement of life, while the act of standing represents awareness. No matter how fast life flows, you can remain present. But how do we cultivate this? It begins with noticing. Notice the sensations in your body, the rhythm of your breath, the feeling of the air on your skin. Notice your thoughts, not to control them, but to see them come and go like clouds in the sky. The more we practice, the more we realize that we are not separate from the flow of life. We are part of it. Some may think presence is passive, but it is quite the opposite. When we are fully present, we respond to life with greater clarity. Instead of reacting out of fear or habit, we act with wisdom. Instead of worrying about the future or clinging to the past, we engage with what is right in front of us. Stability does not come from trying to hold on to something unchanging. It comes from learning to stand calmly in the midst of change. The present moment is not a small refuge in a chaotic world. It is the vast, open space where life unfolds. When we learn to rest in presence, we find a stability that is always available, no matter what comes and goes. We often think of relationships as things that should last forever. We expect friendships to remain the same, love to be constant, and family bonds to never change. But just like everything else in life, relationships are also subject to impermanence. People grow, circumstances shift, and even the closest connections evolve over time. When we resist this truth, relationships become a source of suffering. We may try to hold on tightly to people, fearing that they will change or leave. We may struggle with feelings of loss when relationships drift apart. But no matter how much we wish for things to stay the same, life continues to move forward. A friend moves to another city, a loved one passes away, or the dynamics of a relationship shift in ways we did not expect. This does not mean that relationships are meaningless. On the contrary, impermanence makes them even more precious. When we accept that no relationship is permanent, we learn to cherish each interaction as it comes. A conversation with a friend, a quiet moment with a partner, a warm smile from a stranger, these experiences become valuable, not because they last forever, but because they happen at all. Impermanence also teaches us to let go of resentment. When we hold on to anger or disappointment from the past, we trap ourselves in suffering. But just as people change, so do emotions. What felt painful yesterday may feel lighter today. When we recognize that nothing remains fixed, we can soften our grip on past hurts and open ourselves to healing. Some relationships naturally come to an end. This can be painful, but it is not necessarily a failure. People enter our lives for different reasons and durations. Some stay with us for many years, while others are only meant to walk with us for a short time. Instead of focusing on the length of a relationship, we can appreciate what it brought us in the time it existed. Letting go does not mean forgetting or not caring. It means allowing relationships to grow and change without fear. It means valuing people while they are here, rather than clinging to how we wish things would be. When we embrace impermanence in our relationships, we stop trying to force connections to fit our expectations. We allow love and friendship to flow naturally. We appreciate people for who they are, not who we want them to be. And in doing so, we find a deeper, more peaceful way of relating to the world and those in it. Of all the changes we experience in life, death is the one we fear most. It is the ultimate expression of impermanence, the moment when everything we know, everything we have built, and everything we hold dear must be left behind. Because of this, many people avoid thinking about death. They treat it as something distant, something that happens to others, but no one can escape it. The truth is, from the moment we are born, we are moving toward the end of this life. Rather than fearing death, we can learn from it. In Buddhist teachings, awareness of death is not meant to bring despair, but to awaken us. When we truly understand that life is temporary, we begin to live more fully. We stop delaying the things that matter. We pay more attention to how we spend our time, how we treat others, and what kind of life we are creating. Think of a candle burning. The flame is bright, giving warmth and light, but eventually the wax will melt, and the flame will go out. This is not a tragedy. It is simply the nature of the candle. In the same way, our lives have a beginning and an end. The question is not how long we can keep the flame burning, but how brightly we let it shine while it is here. When we fear death, we often hold on to life too tightly. We chase after wealth, achievements, or status, hoping to create something lasting. But nothing in this world is permanent. Even the greatest empires fade, and even the most beloved names are eventually forgotten. This realization can be unsettling, but it can also be freeing. When we stop trying to build something that lasts forever, we can focus on what truly matters, living with kindness, wisdom, and presence. Facing mortality does not mean we should be careless. On the contrary, it reminds us to take care of ourselves and those around us. It reminds us to express love, to forgive, to be grateful. It teaches us that every moment is precious, not because it will last forever, but because it will not. When we accept death as part of life, it loses its power to frighten us. We stop seeing it as the enemy and begin to see it as a teacher. And through this understanding, we learn the most important lesson of all, that life is not measured by its length, but by the depth of our awareness and the openness of our heart. Many people see impermanence as a source of suffering. They fear losing what they love, aging, or facing uncertainty. But what if impermanence is not a burden, but a kind of freedom? What if, instead of resisting change, we could move with it, like a leaf floating on a river? When we stop fighting impermanence, we begin to see life differently. We realize that we do not need to control everything. The world moves on its own, whether we cling to it or not. Seasons change, people come and go, our bodies grow older. This is not something to resist, it is something to embrace. Think about the sky. The clouds form and dissolve, but the sky itself remains open and vast. Our experiences, emotions, and attachments are like clouds. They appear, shift, and disappear. But we do not have to chase after them or hold on to them. When we accept this, we discover a deep sense of peace. Freedom comes when we release the need for things to be permanent. We no longer live in fear of loss. Instead, we live in appreciation of what is here, right now. A flower is beautiful not because it lasts forever, but because it blooms in this moment. A conversation, a smile, a quiet morning. These are all gifts, precisely because they are fleeting. This understanding changes the way we live. We stop waiting for the perfect moment and start living fully in the present. We stop holding grudges, because we see that nothing stays the same, not even our anger. We stop fearing the future, because we understand that it is always unfolding, just as it should. Letting go of attachment does not mean giving up on life. It means engaging with life more deeply. It means appreciating things without needing them to stay the same. It means loving people for who they are, not for who we wish they would be forever. It means facing change with curiosity rather than fear. When we embrace impermanence, we are no longer trapped by the illusion of control. We become lighter, more open. We flow with life rather than against it. And in that flow, we find something we may not have expected. Not emptiness, but a vast and endless freedom. Impermanence is not just an idea to understand. It is a truth to live by. When we recognize that everything changes, we begin to see life with fresh eyes. We no longer take things for granted. Each moment, each experience, each encounter becomes something to appreciate, not something to cling to. This awareness brings a deep sense of peace. Instead of feeling anxious about the future or regretting the past, we learn to rest in the present. We meet life as it is, with an open heart. When joy arises, we welcome it. When sorrow comes, we allow it to pass through us without resistance. We do not need to hold on, nor do we need to push anything away. We simply experience life, fully and sincerely. The practice of embracing impermanence does not mean we are indifferent or detached. On the contrary, it allows us to care more deeply. We cherish our relationships, knowing they will change. We appreciate beauty, knowing it is temporary. We live with kindness, knowing that each moment is an opportunity to bring warmth into the world. As we walk this path, we may still encounter difficulties. There will still be moments of loss, moments of uncertainty. But with an understanding of impermanence, we can meet these moments with greater acceptance. We can trust that even in times of hardship, change will continue. Just as night turns into day, every experience is part of a larger rhythm. Thank you for sharing this time with me. Your presence here means a great deal. I also want to express my gratitude for those who choose to support this channel, whether by liking this video, subscribing, leaving a comment, or offering a super thanks. Your kindness and engagement allow these teachings to reach more people, and I deeply appreciate it. May we continue to walk this journey with wisdom and peace. May we meet each change with grace. And may we all find freedom in the ever-moving flow of life.